Welcome back to Year in Review. This is a series where I look at games that I didn't have enough time to cover properly. These are not reviews, and they are not informative enough to be considered my first impressions. With that out of the way, let's start. GTFO is a game I've been watching for a while now. I like shooters with a lot of depth or visceralness to them, and GTFO seemed like it would have a bit of both. And while the core gameplay, the atmosphere, the mechanics, the structure seems very solid for an early access game, however, because of the multiplayer implementation, I think this game might be killed before it even releases. Now, before we get into all that, let's talk about the gameplay first. GTFO has you drop into a map and complete an objective, usually finding an item or a set of items like a hard drive that are randomly placed throughout the level. The game has a very dark and foreboding atmosphere. Stealth is necessary to avoid waking up hordes of enemies. Every time you go to a new area, there's always that initial caution among you and your friends while traversing hallways that have different enemy placements every time you play. On one playthrough, one room might be chock full of sleeping enemies, and on another it will be completely empty, keeping you on your toes at all times. It doesn't get dull even after playing the same mission several times over. And speaking of dull, the gunplay is not that. It's quite good, actually. The weapons are fun to use and are very effective. The ammo scarcity helps the guns feel powerful, but not overpowered. Enemy types from the short time I played it vary from runners to spitters to giants that will absolutely mess you up and swarm you if you're not on your toes. To counter this, you have mines and sentry guns and other tools to hold positions. Certain areas you go to require completing a security check, and while this is happening, an alarm goes off and summons an entire horde. It's a nice change of pace. It lets you break away from stealth and lets you and your friends set up a defensive position with the aforementioned sentry turrets and mines if you have them. You're also not sitting in a corner either. You have to move to these lights on the floor and stand within them to activate the doors. If you don't, you only delay the doors opening, and it means fighting enemies even longer while you're running out of ammo and health. There's also that moment when the doors open, but the enemies are still coming. So you gotta carefully but quickly grab your sentry turrets and items and fall back. And you gotta do this in bursts. You gotta be like, oh, okay, Joseph, you gotta fall back right now while we, cover you. And then you grab your sentry turret, and then I'm gonna do that. And then Devin, he's gonna do that. And then we're just all gonna carefully and slowly pull back. It's amazing. The game absolutely nails the feel and atmosphere and gameplay of being in both a thriller and a horror film. It's really solid. What is there is amazing and has so much potential. Unfortunately, the game requires teamwork from other players, which is fine, but the game pretty much requires 4 people. Convincing 3 of your friends to buy an extra copy, then manage them all to get on the same time is a pain, especially when games like Left 4 Dead allow for bot playthroughs and adjustable difficulty to play with less than 4 players. This means that just because just one person didn't make it for game night, it doesn't mean the whole night is shot. In GTFO, I tried with 2 other people because our 4th person could make it and we couldn't get very far in a single mission. We tried over and over again. Now, the game did recently implement a matchmaking system, but I don't expect it to be that good to queue with a bunch of random players, because in a game like this, you either get a bunch of complete morons or people who are super hardcore. And that's what I expect, because there isn't much of a tutorial or practice mode for this game to understand its mechanics without failing a lot first. You have to have good teamwork for this game to be enjoyable, and it's hard to establish that with random players because you and your friends are closer on the same mental wavelengths when playing video games. At least my friends are, and the only reason I was able to get them to play with me is because I got 4 copies of the game to cover it. I doubt you're gonna have 4 friends with good financial stability. You're always gonna have that one cheat ass who doesn't want to play it, and who could play them? You might play this game once, for a fun night, and then you could never get the same people playing, or one person's like, oh, I don't want to play it anymore. And, now it's screwed because you have to matchmake with random players. It's annoying because the game doesn't have a substitute for 3 players or 2 players. I can understand if they don't want to have it be entirely solo because there are co-op mechanics like giving other players health and ammo, covering you, but, and a revive mechanic, but bots or a 3-to-2 player mode would just work a hell of a lot better than what they have now, which is you need 4 people. The average consumer is going to have these luxuries of getting 4 review copies like I did. I mean, I barely get that luxury. I hate to say it, but I can't recommend the game in its current state. And I don't think I'm ever going to, unless you can get a group of friends with money to drop, or you're the type of person who is dedicated and social enough to grab people together and put the time and effort in to develop an online community of players and friends. But for most people, myself included, we just want the game to take care of all that. And we just want to start the game and play it, have a decent experience right out of the box that we can just grow and get better at and have more fun with over time. And more to the point, there are better games out there that are worth investing into, like MMOs, or cheaper games that are worth, all your friends getting a copy of. GTFO just doesn't warrant all of that extra effort. It's a good game, but it's not good enough to justify the lack of a proper matchmaking system and needing a dedicated community of players. It's a shame because the gameplay and atmosphere are really high up there for an early access game. Anyway, guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. I'll have more videos throughout the rest of the month. Have a good one. I'm out.